Well, Sonic Mania came out, and it was fantastic, just like I said it would be. Honestly though, it wasn't hard to see coming. The people who made the game were extremely talented and passionate, and have been active in the community for a long time. I plan on eventually making videos exploring certain aspects of the game in greater depth, but for now I'm going to take a broad look at the game. By the way, this video will have Sonic Mania spoilers, obviously. For starters, the level design in this game was outstanding. The levels were massive and dense with secrets and alternate routes. As far as the zone choices, obviously I was very happy to see Hydra City again. But Oil Ocean and Metallic Madness were surprises. They're not levels I would have picked, but they ended up fitting in pretty well. Oil Ocean was worth including for the Fire Shield interactions alone, and I actually really enjoyed Mania's rendition of Metallic Madness. Who doesn't love Little Sonic? It was so fun using these elemental shields again. There's a lot of cool shit you can do with them, and I really enjoyed the creative interactions with the various stage gimmicks. But I gotta say that Drop Dash kinda stole the show. It's so fucking good. Seriously, I cannot overemphasize how fun it is to use. It's such a perfect addition to Sonic's moveset. I didn't use it that much at first, but once you get the hang of it, my god is it satisfying. Not to mention the speedrun implications. So good that it almost makes it hard to go back to the previous games. The bosses in this game were outstanding. There were a couple that weren't so great, but almost all of them were good. There are a few that might have been a little frustrating your first time through. Once you understand how they work, they really aren't that hard. In particular, I thought the hard-boiled heavies were fantastic additions. God, I love them so much. I absolutely adored the heavy shinobi fight. Using Asterons as ninja stars was a brilliant decision, and those shinobi sound effects were just too fucking good. And my favorite was probably Heavy Magician. I gotta admit, I was not expecting to actually see Bark, Bean, and Fang show up. I thought it was just gonna be like Generations again, where we see some wanted posters and that's it. So actually seeing them was a nice surprise. Yes, technically they were just illusions, but fuck it, close enough. If you're not a huge Sonic nerd and have no idea who the hell Bark, Bean, and Fang are, don't worry, I'll go over it in my future video, Who the Hell Are Bark, Bean, and Fang? This game is genuinely funny. It actually made me laugh out loud quite a few times while playing it. Obviously the Mean Bean Machine boss fight was great. I think everyone seems to agree that was a brilliant reference. My favorite part might be the Hydra City mini-boss. And come on, they literally added an and Knuckles mode where you can have Knuckles tag along as any character, even Knuckles. These guys knew what they were fucking doing, alright? They knew about the memes, dog. There were just a ton of funny moments throughout, and it made me really happy to see the game has a nice sense of humor. As far as the new special stages go, I like them. I think they're pretty fun. They took me a while to get the hang of, especially that damn 5th Chaos Emerald, but once you understand some basic shit like jumping around tight corners, they're really not so bad. Blue Sphere returns too, which is fine, I guess. Kinda weird we actually have 2 special stages and no bonus stage. But it's not really a big deal or anything, it's just once you have all the medals, there's really no reason to go into the Blue Sphere stages again. If you really feel like playing Blue Sphere, you would probably just select the unlockable Blue Sphere mode from the menu. Also, it was really cool to see stuff like the green and pink spheres from the custom Blue Spheres 2 concept level stealth made in the Retro engine and showed off back in 2014. And somewhere out there, Blue Sphere guy is really happy. When it comes to glitches, I didn't encounter anything too bad my first time through. On repeated playthroughs I've encountered some small glitches, but nothing major. It's a game, it has some glitches, but they're not too common. I did encounter one absolutely game-breaking bug which rendered the game completely unplayable. Sometimes the music would stop. And come on, what's the fucking point in playing without that music? What can I say about the music in this game? T did it. He's a fucking madman. He literally did it. He actually went and made a soundtrack as good as Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Maybe even better. The music in Sonic Mania is a 10 out of 10 perfection. I have too many favorites to even list. They're all my favorites. But if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be the Hard-Boiled Heavies boss theme, which T claims was inspired by Jet Set Radio and Cowboy Bebop, thus proving it is the coolest song of all time. Seriously, the whole soundtrack is so fucking good. And now you can go listen to the previous T-Lopes OSTs for other games he's worked on, and just check out all the incredible remixes he has on his YouTube channel. He also literally does these streams where you can watch him make music live, and it's mesmerizing. It's a great time. I strongly recommend checking out his channel. Alright, nobody wants to see a video where I just suck Mania's dick the whole time. Now that I've established it's an excellent game, it's time to go over my nitpicks and gripes. And there's no point beating around the bush. My biggest complaint with the game is the missing level transitions. Some levels have these wonderful connecting cutscenes. Hell, even some of the act transitions are great. But some levels there's just literally nothing. And it's very peculiar because it's not like it would be hard to imagine a transition from Flying Battery to Press Garden, like you could just jump off. On the other hand, some transitions like Hydra City to Mirage Saloon are extremely jarring. The fact that some levels have such great transitions really makes the lack of transitions on the other levels stand out. I just really wish I knew why it was like this. I can't imagine someone in the Mania team was like, hey, what if we just didn't have level transitions for some of the levels? There must have been some kind of last minute zone shuffling or something. Again, the missing transitions aren't a deal breaker or anything, it's just kinda weird. Originally I was going to complain that there was no separate button for super transformations, but those wonderful Mania devs actually patched one in, fixing one of my biggest issues with the game when I first played through it on the PS4. I have to say, I am extremely grateful we actually even got Super Tails and Super Knuckles. I know Iizuka has very specific rules for who's allowed to go super in the main series. That said, it would have been nice to have hyper forms in this game. The word hyper can be found in the game data, among some other things. I know Iizuka hates the Super Emeralds, but I really just like having multiple levels of transformation. It didn't even have to be hyper, really. Could have been a brand new form for all I care. Ah well, you can't get everything you want. I gotta say, having old abilities like the Insta-Shield and Peel-Out was a fucking brilliant move, and I really appreciated seeing them again, especially the Insta-Shield. That said, it was a little odd that certain unlockable features like these moves and the Knuckles mode can only be used on no-save runs. It's true that the level select helps mitigate this somewhat since you can just start where you want, but still, you should just let us have these features on actual save files. And you know, every modern controller has more than enough buttons to let us use all these abilities at once. We need a max control option like from Sonic 3 Complete. Come on, Taxman and Stealth, I know you guys know about Sonic 3 Complete. Yeah, that's what mods are for, I guess. I do look forward to featuring some cool Mania mods in a future video. And like I said, most of the bosses in this game are fantastic, but a few kind of, well, suck. Press Garden's mini-boss is just boring and tedious, and Oil Ocean's mini-boss is just shit. I mean, I love that he's designed to look like the Lumberjack mini-boss from Mushroom Hill Zone, that's a cute touch, but the fight itself is bullshit. Luckily he can be killed extremely easily before he can even get one of these attacks in. Unfortunately, I do have a couple issues with the final boss. It's a pretty good fight, but there's just a few things that bother me about it, like how it's one of those bosses that gets easier the more damage you've done. I've always preferred when bosses have like a cool phase 2 that's even harder, so when bosses get easier as the fight progresses, well, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Also, I absolutely love the idea of teleporting you to face off against the hard-boiled heavies again, but these segments seem kind of weirdly incomplete or something. I mean, all you have to do is avoid their attacks for a short period of time and you'll be sent back, even though it's possible to do damage to all of them, even the ones in the background. I would have liked to see this part fleshed out a little bit. And the true final boss, Egg Reverie, was pretty cool, but it could have been a little better. I mean, it's just a little underwhelming when compared to Doomsday Zone. Imagine how cool it would have been to have an entire actual one-act level designed around Supersonic. That would have been really fucking awesome. And there are even leftover tiles in the game like slopes and stuff which seem to indicate there was originally more planned for this zone. I love the idea of Eggman and the Heavy King fighting over the Phantom Ruby, but it would have been cool to see a little bit more of that during the actual fight. Also, the fight really starts to get repetitive towards the end. Really could have used a phase 2 or something. I do really like the way it controls and how you can enter flight mode. However, I really wish they didn't make the dash cost 5 rings because it makes me never ever want to use it. All in all, I like Egg Reverie in theory, it's just that it could have been executed better, especially again compared to Doomsday Zone. Also, you can't select it from your save file for some reason, which is kind of weird. So what do I think about the fact that Good Ending is clearly a Sonic Forces tie-in? Well, I mean, it doesn't really bother me, apart from the weird Sonic is dead vibe it gives off at first. Even if Forces sucks, it's not like it's gonna make Mania any worse. The Knuckles exclusive content like his Mirage Saloon one and the Heavy King fight were fantastic. I just wish there was a little bit more of it. He has some nice alternate paths, but it would have been nice if they were just a little longer or maybe there was a few more of them. Also, in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, every single boss in the game was tweaked to be slightly harder as Knuckles, even beyond the added difficulty of his shorter jump. And I was okay without this little feature in Mania, but it would be something I would consider bringing back for the next game. And I don't want to get too fucking greedy here, but in a perfect world, some cool Tails only stuff would be really nice too. This one's not really a big deal, but Sonic and Knuckles both get a nice little animation at the start of Chemical Plant Zone, but Tails doesn't get anything special. Again, not a huge issue, but the weird thing is Tails actually does have a special animation in the game files, it's just not programmed in for some reason. Kind of a shame because it's pretty good. Sorry this video took so long to come out, I had to delay it to add Denuvo, of course. Seriously, I don't really want to go into the specifics of how Denuvo totally sucks and is intrusive and anti-consumer and all that shit, and I certainly won't hold it against you if you refuse to buy the game because of it. All I'll say is that it was Sega's horrible decision, so please, don't hold it against the Mania devs, they're pure and good. Yes, it sucks they added a bunch of bullshit DRM with Denuvo, but it doesn't make the actual game any worse, so try not to let it taint your perception of it. As far as the difficulty goes, I've heard a few people complain about it, but I personally thought if anything it might have been a little too easy. But that may have something to do with the fact I've been obsessively replaying the Genesis games for the last 23 years. To people lacking solid Sonic fundamentals, I can see how it might be a little tough at times. I get that they wanted to be like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but I wouldn't have minded them softening a few edges. With levels this big, you could probably get rid of the time over and nobody would have complained. And it would have been a nice feature to be able to select acts from a save file. I don't think letting people start at Act 2 after a game over is that big a deal either. As far as something like removing lives altogether, I mean, I understand the argument. If you're good at the game, you'll never game over, so your number of lives is basically never an issue. But if you're bad at the game, then on top of dying all the time, you're getting sent all the way back to the start of Act 1 periodically, which is kind of like getting kicked while you're down. All I'll say is I found lives and rings to be plentiful in this game, and finding an extra life or collecting 100 rings is an extremely satisfying feeling. Removing lives removed the unhealthy amount of pleasure I take in hearing that 1-up jingle. That said, if they put a no lives option in the menu, I wouldn't give a shit, as long as it's optional and doesn't bother me. So despite all my nitpicks and complaints, I would still consider this to be a 10 out of 10 game. It just appealed to me personally on such a deep and resonant level, I have no choice but to give it a perfect score. Honestly, it's been a long time since I've had this much fun playing a game, and as someone with the unfortunate title of Sonic Lore Master, I have to say I really appreciated all the top-notch references and callbacks in this game. I certainly don't have time to go over every single one in this video, however I would like to go over some that stood out to me. Hopefully watching my videos prepared you to catch some of these on your own. I mean, there were 3 references to splats in this fucking game. As a debug object in Green Hill Zone, in the Trashed and Flying Battery Zone, and as an actual enemy in Press Garden. Think about that. 3 separate references to a cut Badnik from Sonic 1. That is the level of genius we're working with here. You might also remember the large mountains in the background of the 1990 Tokyo Toy Show demo, a design element used in Act 2 of Mania's Green Hill Zone. And I gotta say, I appreciated all the Chaotix references, like seeing this fucking guy again, or the design of this boss, or this part of the Metal Sonic fight. Oh, and the music that plays during the Knuckles and Knuckles ending was a nice touch. There are some other parts of the game that are Chaotix inspired too, which I thought was cool. And goddamn were the Game Gear references on point. I was extremely happy to see little noodle armed Silver Sonic again, complete with his original Game Gear sound effects. And the boss and Knuckles version of Mirage Saloon Act 1 being a throwback to the Gigopolis boss from Sonic Chaos was pretty cool. This fucking boss, man. Obviously the Weather Vane Badnik Cluckoid from Sonic and Knuckles as the weather reporter was cute, but what was really great was having the sun icon be a callback to the Handling This Cartridge pages from old Sega manuals. And I can't believe there is actually an explicit reference to that hilarious 25th anniversary livestream, but with the buzzing and the numbers at the bottom of the screen representing the date of the stream. There were some pretty unexpected references in here. I was not expecting to see a Sonic Colors reference, for example. The Amy dolls being reminiscent of the Tails doll from Sonic R also gave me a good chuckle. And the missile reticles during the final boss being a reference to the map screen from Sega Sonic the Hedgehog was quite a deep cut. The boss itself is actually based off a sketch of an unused boss design from Sonic CD, which is pretty interesting too. I was surprised and very pleased to see even the Sonic OVA got a nod with the design of Tails goggles. Also, I'm not sure if this thing in the Metal Sonic fight is an explicit reference to this thing from the OVA, but they look pretty similar, and they're both Metal Sonic related. My only major complaint is if you're gonna reference the OVA, why the fuck wouldn't you include Knuckles' awesome hat? If this shit was in Mania, I would have lost my fucking mind. Also, if you're playing as Tails, then Sonic is wearing the cut goggles item from Sonic 1, which, I mean, come on guys. These fucking guys. Even the cut content in this game has some high quality references. There's cut sprites of the I'm Out of Here Easter egg from Sonic CD, which can be re-enabled by changing some memory values. These guys added in a motherfucking donkey Easter egg. That's fucking hilarious. Like, think about that. There's a motherfucking video game donkey Easter egg in Sonic Mania. What a time to be alive. God, I love Sonic Mania so much, and I am extremely excited to see what this dev team does next. I would love for them to make a Mania 2 as soon as possible, possibly with all new levels, but we'll just have to wait and see. As it stands, I'm just super grateful Mania is as good as it is. I plan on playing it and discussing it plenty more in the future. However, I'm also excited to get back to making videos about stupid shit that nobody cares about, which is what really gets my rocks off. I've been streaming again lately, and keep your eyes open for some new videos on my second channel. The next main channel video will be very soon. Thanks to all my beautiful, wonderful patrons.